So, for the last 4.5 weeks, we've had the great privilege to host one of the first Tibetan Buddhist nuns who has earned an advanced Buddhist philosophical degree, Geshe-ma Delek Wangmo, who is from Dromaling Nunnery in Dharamsala and is one of the Buddhist philosophy teachers there. And it was her very first time here in the US. And during her time here, she taught us debate. She gave a public talk, and you can find that recording on our YouTube channel. Some of us learned Tibetan from her. And she also had the chance to improve her English. So she was working hard on that. And yeah, just to also get to know what society in the US is like and what the situation of Buddhism is like. So one evening after our regular, we do it twice a month, the Lama Chopa Puja, the Guru Puja, that we come together as a community and make offerings. I was just walking Geshe-la down the stairs when suddenly she turned to me and said, "Wow, the talk was done really well." Yeah, it's probably the first time she experienced hearing that kind of the traditional Tibetan prayers, largely done in English. Yeah, and she said, "Your monastery is really good." She said, people come here and they have the time to meditate and they receive teachings and they're so sincere in their practice, and all kinds of people come here and they don't have to pay to be here. She's like, "This is amazing." And so walking with her, I was a bit like, you never really know how to respond to this kind of praise as a member of community. Like, do you just go, "Yes," right? No. And so I restrained myself and said, "Well, I think Dromaling is really amazing too. I mean, considering what the Tibetans have had to go through to rebuild religious institutions in exile, what every single member of their community has had to put through, to put in to build the nunnery from scratch." Yeah. So I kind of just responded that way. And she said, "Yeah, but we have a long history of Buddhist culture in Tibet. This is almost normal. Every little village has their own monastery. It's still customary for families to send, their children to the monasteries." She's like, "This is amazing. You're in the middle of nowhere. There is no Buddhist culture. Like, what you have done in the last 20 or so years is incredible." So she kind of went on for a while, and I thought, well, and if you put it that way, that is true. Yeah, we are in North America if you're interested in ordaining in the Tibetan tradition and training in English. And if I may digress, this kind of really hit home yesterday too when I was up in the Buddha Hall with some other folks from here to just figure out how we're going to get the Dharma instruments into the building. And one of the workers who was on the lift, was it some kind of machine? Scissors lift. He comes down and he goes, "Can I take a picture with you guys?" He's like, "My mother doesn't believe I'm working here." He's like telling her, I'm in this place in the middle of nowhere that's very beautiful. It's like a church. He asks us, "Do you call this a temple?" And there are these monks and nuns. And I said, "Yeah, your mom's probably wondering what you're smoking, huh?" And he said, "Yes, pretty much." So he was so happy to take a picture with us and to show his mother we're real and he's not making it up. Yeah, but he too cannot believe that he's coming to work here every day and, contributing to, the establishment of this Buddhist monastery in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. So in that vein, later on at the end of her trip, we also had another Q&A session with Geshe-la. Some people from the community attended. And again, she repeated this message, if you recall, those who were there, where she said, again, what we're doing here is just kind of inconceivable considering that there isn't this kind of long history of Buddhism. And then she added that we're at the very beginning. Yeah, so every single person here is extremely important. She said, if every single person here continues to practice well, then this place is going to last for a very long time, and then more and more people can come. And that's something she also said to me that previous time. Just saying, like, if you just keep going the way you are going, you don't know, it's good. It's just going to keep growing, and then so many people are going to benefit from being able to come here and practice. And so she really emphasized to us how important every single person here is. And I think that's something important for us to remember, because just living here and being part of the routine, you can just forget that, right? Or your afflictions run your life and you get caught up over really silly things like, why am I on dishes again? And so forth, yeah? So it's like, let's remember to step back and remember we're part of this, quote, founding generation. The policies we make about the dish rota could have a very long-ranging effect on generations to come. So we must bear this in mind. But, just thinking of this kind of long-term view, I feel we've had some opportunity to reflect on that with the passing of very important teachers, because they always had the long view, just looking at what they spent their time on. I mean, it's so amazing that we have the Library of Wisdom and Compassion being completed this year. I think we should have like this giant party when Volume 10 comes out. It's amazing that we're alive at this time and that we're getting teachings from Venerable about this whole series. You know, what did we do to create those causes? And also with Professor Jeffrey Hopkins, right? We've been attending his memorials, you know, the prayers every week. I think it was Venerable who told me this, but you know, he's such a prolific translator, and people criticize him for being too literal sometimes. Yeah, he's very literal, and he makes sure that you can translate from English back into Tibetan. But he has this vision that he's just doing the first, almost like a first draft. It's the groundwork for future translators to work off of. I thought that is so generous, right? To think, you know, I'm very egotistical, so I'm like, I am producing the definitive translation. He doesn't have that view. He's like, I'm putting in my work, I'll do my best to make this a good translation, and other people are going to improve on it for generations to come. Yeah. And the same with Venerable Heng Ching, who we've heard about, you know, who, because it was so difficult to find resources in the library in the past, decides for the future generations of scholars, let's do whatever we can to digitize things. And that, you know, has had an incredible impact. So in the same way, yeah, whatever we're doing here now is going to have that kind of long-ranging impact. And maybe on a more self-centered, from a more self-centered perspective, I think, you know, sometimes, yeah, what we're doing tangibly seems very mundane, but no matter what, I always think I am putting imprints in my mind stream that are going to last for a very, 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 very long time. Yeah, it's going to take us to awakening. So we have to be very careful with what we're doing with our mind in this life. Yeah, the effects are, yeah, extremely long term. So, but for sure, we have all created good causes. That's why we are here today and have this wonderful small little window to continue to practice and to do what we can to keep this going. In conclusion, I just wanted to remind us of this marvelous verse from the Lamrim dedication. It is truly one of my favorite dedication prayers. And I'm sure we've all prayed this in the past. That's why we're here now. You know, where Lama Tsongkhapa says, in regions where the supreme precious teaching has not spread, or where it has spread but then declined, with my heart deeply moved by great compassion, may I illuminate this treasure of happiness and benefit.